This video has been a long time in the making, and I'm actually really excited that it's finally here and coming out. So when I first saw these Nanoleaf string lights at a party at CES that Nanoleaf invited me to, I knew they were something I wanted to check out. They look super cool. But of course, when they were released to the public in the spring, my yard here in Illinois was cold and I didn't want to put up any string lights, and it probably wouldn't have made for a very good video. But now that the weather's warmer, I've had about a month to play with these lights, both the ups and downs of using them. And I want to talk through the details because they can add an amazing effect to any outdoor environment, but there are some potential downsides you want to be aware of. If you're new here, I'm Eric Welander. I've been an app developer on Apple platforms since 2011 and building out my smart home here on YouTube since 2018. So if you're into Apple and smart home tech, consider subscribing. And thanks to Nanoleaf for sending me these lights, the 30-meter version, free of charge. This video is not sponsored. In the box, you get the lights. They're stored in this kind of cool egg carton-like foam container. And then, of course, the power adapter, as well as the control box, which is like the brains of the lights. And it does seem like if you get the 30-meter or 45-meter versions, these actually come with multiple 15-meter strings that then you can attach together. And we'll talk more about the configuration of that part of the lights in a little bit. But as I always say, if you're installing lights or other things in your smart home, it's best to set up the software side of them first to make sure that all works properly before actually modifying your home or apartment and putting stuff like this up. So adding these to Apple Home is very easy. They work with Matter over Wi-Fi, so they'll work with a bunch of different smart home platforms you might use. But then you just scan the code and add them straight into something like Apple Home. Now with them in Apple Home, the Nanoleaf app can also see them and install software updates, which I did as well. And I just kept them running here in my office for about a week until I had a chance to do all of the different setup stuff outside of my back deck. So I'm sure you can find plenty of different opinions out there on the internet of the proper way to set up string lights. I just went with a string light hanging kit from my local hardware store, which came with some wire, and I ran that from the house out to a wooden post that I added to my deck and then back to the house just to make a simple V over part of my deck. And this is also slightly influenced by where you have an outdoor outlet to plug these lights into, because of course the power outlet does have to plug into a standard outlet, and the length of that to your control box is fixed. Of course, you could run an extension cord if you needed to reach an outlet further away. But that gets me to one of the challenges or downsides with these lights, which is that you cannot trim the light shorter than 15 meters. With the 30-meter version like I got, the lights come in 15-meter segments, which you can connect if you choose to or not. And that actually came in really handy for me, which we'll talk about in a second. But you can't make something shorter than 15 meters or shorter than a perfect interval of 15, 30, or 45. So I attached these string lights to the wire that I'd hung with zip ties, but then I ended up looping part of it back onto the same wire. So there's just a small segment of my lights that actually have twice as many lights per space. It's not the cleanest look, but it works fine. And it is a way to sort of deal with not being able to find the exact 15-meter segment to hang these. Now, once I got these lights hung up, one of the things I realized is I always thought about string lights as something that would be nice to have when you're actually outside. But with smart string lights like this, it's actually nice as well to have them on while you're inside, especially because these add nice color lighting effects. You can make some nice designs outside that are just nice to look at through the windows. But with these being outside all the time, they're also exposed to the elements. These are IP67 rated weather resistant lights, but they're not bulletproof. We had some really bad thunderstorms roll through the area, and I'm not sure if it was that or just some other malfunction of the lights, but all of a sudden after that, one of the lights just a little bit away from the control box was stuck on. and then any of the lights beyond that would not turn on no matter what setting I did with the control box. And this gets me to the other downside of these lights is that they're not modular. So what I'd love to see from Nanoleaf is something where maybe that one light got damaged for some reason, and then I could just talk to Nanoleaf support and get a replacement for that specific light, unscrew that and screw in a new version and be set. But after trying a handful of different software fixes and realizing that it was probably the light bulb that went bad, I actually just installed the second of the 15-meter sets, because if you remember, I asked Nanoleaf for a 30-meter version of this because I initially had much grander plans of how I was going to structure these lights on my deck, but then went with a more simple option when it actually came to installing it. And what that meant is that I had a spare 15-meter string of lights sitting in my basement. So I just put those on, and since then I've been using it for about a week and everything seems to be working fine with the new lights. Although we haven't had any really bad rain and thunderstorms roll through the area since those have been hung up. So if you're looking at these lights and planning to hang them in a 15-meter spot, it is something to consider that you might want to look at the 30 or even the 45-meter versions of these, just so that you have those spare strings of lights on hand if you need to replace them due to some kind of calamity. And while these lights are weather resistant, as I mentioned, I don't plan on leaving them up through the entire winter here in Illinois. Once the weather forecasts are starting to show temperatures dropping below 0 degrees Fahrenheit or something like that, I'll definitely plan to take these down. Although I do think it will be nice to have string lights like this for the holidays, like around Christmas time. Now, I was mentioning earlier how you can use the Nanoleaf app to change different color effects, and that works great. You can get all kinds of cool colors, and people are actually creating more of those, and these actually share those effects with other Nanoleaf lights. So if you already have other Nanoleaf lights and have effects from those you like, you'll probably be able to get those to also play on these lights as well. Now, you can sync your favorite Nanoleaf scenes from the Nanoleaf app with HomeKit, which means that the Nanoleaf app will then write those scenes to HomeKit. And while the Matter Standard and HomeKit don't support multicolor lighting scenes, you are able to trigger these scenes in other home apps, and then when the Nanoleaf lights see that particular scene come across in its command, it'll do whatever multicolored effect you were looking for. Now, the problem I have with this is that the Nanoleaf app is always way too eager with how many scenes it actually adds to my HomeKit setup. And so I'll open the Home app and suddenly see tons of Nanoleaf scenes that have been added. And so while this is a cool idea, unless you're really detailed about which scenes you like or don't like in the Nanoleaf app, you're going to end up with a lot of scenes in Apple Home. So I just keep this whole syncing thing turned off. If I want to trigger it in Apple Home, I trigger it to a solid color. And then if I want to, let's say, impress my children with some cool multicolor lighting effects, I open up the Nanoleaf app and do that there. And then of course, with solid colors, you can set these lights to just a warm or white color light that looks like classic string lights. So if you want to be able to have that kind of warm evening glow ambiance, you can totally do that without any of the extra animated colors. And because that's a solid color and brightness level, you can set that anywhere that Matter supports it. Now, while I do find the issues I had after the storm a little bit concerning with these lights and how they might hold up to extreme weather, I found the effects these lights add to your outdoor area can be really nice. I love how they look on my back deck. And if you're willing to think about a design where string lights work well, or maybe you already have some string lights hung up and you want to replace them with these smart ones, I think the Nanoleaf string lights are definitely ones to consider. And I love that they support Matter because, well, I love Apple Home and maybe you do too. If you decide to use another smart home platform in the future, you can easily move these lights with you. And if you want to check out these lights, I have a link down in the description below. I also have another video from my channel on the screen that you might be interested in. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. Subscribe to the channel if you aren't already. Thanks again so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.